I just want to show you some data upgrades that we've done. So how you can purchase OS MasterMap. So what I've just shown you isn't technically purchasing the license for MasterMap, it's licensing the use of the MasterMap to draw the shapes, but we can show you how you can actually purchase the data and how you can download that data both onto the Land app, but also if you want to export it to another software, I'll show you how to do that. And then I'll look through these other data sets as well that we've added for both Scotland and the rest of the UK. So to purchase MasterMap for a 12-month license, what you can do is you can now visit this buy data button at the top right-hand side. So it's a little suitcase with a play button. I think it might update to a shopping cart soon, but for the moment it's a little suitcase. And when you click that, you're met with all our premium data sets, which at the moment is just one. We're having some conversations with some other commercial partners, which hopefully will be useful. But if there's any data sets that you want to be purchased in this way, again, please let us know. When you choose MasterMap, what you're met with is this little shopping information tab. And what this allows you to do is firstly define your purchase area. So there's two options for this. You can either use an existing project or you can create a frame. What I'm first going to do is I'm just going to create a frame. And in a similar way to printing, this just gives you a bounding box that you can edit and change the shape of and move and change like so. So I want to purchase this data area. And what that's doing is every time you move it, it's automatically calculating the price for that MasterMap for 12 months. So Ordnance Survey have updated the way that they sell data. There's a scoring matrix happening in the background. So it's cheaper to buy Ordnance Survey data in Heathland, in Moorland, if there's not many urban environments. But if you're trying to buy towns and, if you're trying to buy central London, it's a lot more expensive per hectare. So we can't quote for a per hectare basis anymore. We have to quote for an area based on the location. So if you're in rural Scotland, OS data is a lot cheaper than if you're in the City of London, for example. So for me to purchase this data, it's automatically calculated. It's £300 plus VAT. The second question in here is intersect settings. And I'm going to show you the difference of these during the demo. There's whole features or there's cut features. And for the demo, I'm going to do cut features. And what that would do is that will mean the OS data that's displayed is going to be perfectly in line with this bounding box. And I'll do a demo in a minute the other way. Actually, I'll do whole features now and I'll do demo for cut features in a minute. So this is my demo for whole features. When you hit buy now, exactly the same as printing. For you professional users, you can choose whether it goes billable or non-billable. So this is where you can start assigning it to clients on their client codes. So this could be job 001, and then you can say it's billable. Once you've accepted the price and you put buy now, what that does is that then goes and calls our database, and it will start downloading the data in two separate locations. I'll show you the first one to start with, but this little pop-up box tells you where it's going, and I'll explain where this my data page is in a moment. But what I want to do is go back to my map. So at the moment, what it's doing, it's just going to collect, and it takes about 10 seconds. The bigger the farm, the longer it takes. But what we do need you to do at the moment, and just remember, you do need to refresh your page like so before you see the data. So I've clicked the refresh, and hopefully my data would have been collected and purchased. There we are. And so it's dropped now 2 data layers onto my projects tab, which are kind of incognito at the moment with our base map. But what we've done, just to show you, and I'll go back to full screen, we've introduced a blank base map for this exact reason. So you can see the OS data that I've purchased. So just for a moment, I'm going to toggle off my data layers that are on, and you can see the data layers. So just to show you what we serve, so we serve it in 2 different formats. We serve you the labels, which you can't see at the moment because you're too zoomed out. And we also serve you the polygons and the lines. So as I zoom in, you can see that the labels, let me find, there you go, so the path, pavilion, the contour, height, etc. starts to show on that. And if I don't want the labels, I can toggle that on and off. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to do a couple of things. The first thing is that each of these are now interactive shapes that you can click on. So I can click on this woodland block and change the styling if I want. I can change the styling of all the woodland blocks by going like so and updating however you want. And therefore you can make the woodland slightly more prominent. It is worth saying that we're just about to do a styling update. We think this one's a bit too faint, but that should be out next week, just to show you the principle. Not only that, you can also run our reports as well. So remember, we've got this report function at the top right. You've downloaded your area. You can then add a project for the OSMM area, and get a summary of your area in terms of its makeup. So if it's an estate, for example, you can run it for your estate and then get a breakdown of how much agricultural land to mixed woodland, conifer woodland, etc. is within there. And again, that is exportable both at the table level. So if you want a row by row of all the features, you can click this download as a table button, or if you want just a high level summary table like so, you can download it as a Excel file. So that's what I've done when I purchased the whole features. So I'm actually going to use the reorder function now. It's quite a good time to show it. I want to move my OS base map and labels behind my basic payment scheme and click done. And then if I turn on my SFI demo, for example, you can see that now my SFI demo is sat on top of my purchased OS MasterMap. And the reason we've done this is this then allows you to print an unlimited number of times for your map for free. So this blank base map is free, whereas if you try to print on the OS Leisure, for example, you'd get charged again for that royalty. So you can purchase the vector data, but then you can use it to produce high quality prints for an unlimited amount of time for the area you've purchased. So that was downloading the OS MasterMap data with the whole features. And just to explain what that meant, actually, I don't think I touched on that, is that the area that I've purchased is got something called a fuzzy cut. So instead of being a hard boundary, so for that bounding box I've drawn, it's kept all the features. So because I've paid for this river, I get the entire river feature until Ordnance Survey says it's another feature. So this river goes right the way up the catchment, even though my bounding box was cut along here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run it again for the little farm, but instead of choosing whole features, I'm going to choose cut features. And what that does is that creates a perfect edge to your map. There's no wrong or right way of doing it. It's just whatever your preference is. I guess the pros of doing whole features means you get more data. You can see it. And if you're using it for, say, using it as a print-based map, that's the easiest way of doing it. But if you are wanting, say, to get a high-level accurate summary for your farm, what might be best is click the by data, choose master map. Instead of using a frame, if you use a project, and actually I'm going to use my SFI demo. So that farm, that project that I just created, part of that tracing that I did, and this is my SFI demo, but this one I'm going to, instead of using whole features, I'm going to cut the features. Again, so the price has gone down. It's going to save you money by obviously doing less. And then you hit buy now, and this can be job 002, which is also billable. And click buy now. So these are going to be two separate bits of data. All of that data is accessible for download. So we automatically upload it onto your base map for you. However, you can, if you want, export it, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Right, so again, I do need to refresh, which is something that our development team are just working on. Hopefully you won't need to refresh it. It should automatically just appear in your map. But what's happened now is I've got two data layers. So I've got my OSM demo whole, and then I've got my SFI demo cut. And just to show you that cut has not got that fuzzy edge. So even though I've got rivers, for example, the cut features have now meant that my OS master map is exactly as my SFI pilot was. So it's followed the exact edges exactly, which means the total area of one should equal the other. And again, just to show you the benefit of that is it might be that if you're doing for your individual farm or estate or a client's estate, that will make the report you generate. So in exactly the same way as that's the whole, if I add a report and choose the area SFI demo, I've got an exact area that has the exact breakdown from within my four walls. So those fuzzy edges, although they're good to get more data, you may want a more accurate understanding of what's exactly within those bounds of your map. So that's purchasing the data. Like I said, you can update the styling, you can produce reports, you can export that as a table view, and you can have it on Bing imagery if you want. So you can overlay that with different data layers. Again, you can have a play with the styling if there's any other issues. But what we wanted to just let you know is once you purchase that data, within your My Data Purchases tab here, you can go to a separate window within your Land App account, and you can see all of the different data that you, and if you're an organization, have bought over the last year or more. And so just to kind of break this down about what happens is firstly that the name of the project is the name that I typed in when I first purchased the data. So you can change the name using the edit button, but I typed an SFI demo cut. The map that I purchased it from is here as a hyperlink. So if I wanted to get directly straight into that map, I can click on this link and it'll take me back into the map that I've just been demonstrating from. The job code obviously is what I typed in. Again, that's editable within here. And it's automatically tagged if you're in a professional subscription with the tags that the map had previously had. So that's kind of the metadata. Some of it's editable, some of it's not. Obviously the area and the licensing information shows here. As mentioned, it's a 12 months license with Ordnance Survey. Some of the other commercial ones are as well 12 months. And it tells you when your license is up for renewal. And within this page, once that renewal date comes, you can renew your license automatically. And the way that happens is this download as button turns green and it says renew license. So you can click that, renew it, and you can download a new license from Ordnance Survey. So just to show you what this download as button does. So what I've previously shown you is you purchase data in your map and the land app automatically delivers that Ordnance Survey data to your map. What this download as button does allows you to export that data file as a geospatial data set. So it might be, as for example, you're in a state, you've just purchased all of the data, the land app's put it all formatted, ready for the land app in your map, but you've got some contractors that really want to put their, the GZ file or the GML file in their system. You can then come into this My Data page, choose the GML, which is GZ compressed, click the Generate Link button, and what the land app does is it goes back to our database and creates a new data file for you, but this time it's GML and it contains all of the attributes. And when I say all of the attributes, let me just dive in here so you can have a little look, is that actually Ordnance Survey topo is made up of points, lines, areas, text, symbols, and boundary lines. For the land app one, we don't include, for example, the cartographic symbols. We've kind of stripped it back at the moment, but if you need all the data, it's contained within that export there. So that's available as JSON shapefile. And if there's any other data sets you need, so say on your clients is like, oh, we really need a SQL Lite version, don't panic, just get in touch with support and we can add additional types within here. It is worth saying that this data download is going to give you the most up-to-date OS data. So if, for example, in 9 months' time, you come back in here and download a GeoJSON, you're going to be getting that data from that day. If you want to retain a copy of the complete data set from, say, the date of purchase, on the day of buying the OS data, it might be a good idea just to come in here and just generate a link for the GeoJSON, or obviously you've got it on your file. It's just that we're updating our Ordnance Survey data every 6 weeks. So if there's any reason that you need that format to stay the same, do just come in, generate a link, and that link will sit here forever. So if you want to come back at a later date and download it from the 4th of March, do feel free to do so. The next thing to show you is that you might be requested from that contractor that have you got proof of licensing. You can click this little license button and the land app automatically downloads a license document for you to your computer. And so this will contain all the details you need, which includes your name, the purchase reference number, the start date, the duration of that license, etc. And then a link to our terms and conditions. So when asked, do you have you licensed that data to share? Our recent update to our privacy and EULA guidance states that you can use our collaborate function or share that Ordnance Survey data with a contractor if you've bought it through the land app using this license as well. So that hopefully will answer some of the questions. Let me just this and back in here. So that's purchasing data files. So that's what I'm going to show on purchasing the OS MasterMap data. But if there's any questions or there's something wasn't clear, do let me know in the Q&A function and Tom and I can chat, unless Tom, there's anything that you want to quickly intercept me on. So,
nothing so far, Dan. All good.
Okay, great. So that's the second section of the webinar done. So that's purchasing data. Just this next part within that data is we've updated some data layers. So that's hopefully ticked all the boxes for MasterMap, both the interactive base map, but also the ability to purchase MasterMap as a vector format that you can create your projects on or submit RLE ones for whatever you need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly scoot up to Scotland quickly, zoom out and put on labels, even though I know roughly where we are. And so just to quickly show you and summarize the Scottish data layers that we've updated. I'm actually going to go on light, a bit easier to see. The easiest way to see them is if you actually just type in the word Scotland. These are the main data sets we've updated. Some of them, and I'll touch on it in a minute, are included in the others. But I think during the last update webinar, we explained registers of Scotland and the carbon and peatland data set for Scotland. What we have since then is updated 3 more data sets. So we've got the land capability data sets in 2 different resolutions. So these are from the James Hutton Institute. And if you toggle those on, the 1 to 50K is quite a big data set, so you might need to zoom in before it loads, he says. Go on. A little while, because I'm really zoomed out. So at 1 to 250K is a slightly lighter data set. So that loads pretty quickly. And this is where, hopefully, it did work just a minute ago. Land capability for 1 to 50K. No, okay, it might be that my internet's struggling with all the other things I'm doing, but that should load in a minute. Plus, we've also got the land capability for forestry of Scotland as well, which is just, yeah, loaded quickly as well. But so this is just showing you where in Scotland there's, you know, a good capability in terms of the soil and the agricultural type for planting trees. That again, I think is, yeah, a James Hutton data set. So those 3 from James Hutton hopefully provide you, alongside the peatland, if anyone's working in Scotland on the woodland or the peatland carbon codes, everything you need to crack on with that. But if there's anything missing, again, do let us know from Scotland. What we've also done with Scotland actually is merged it with a couple of data sets. So there's a couple of, for example, nitrate vulnerable zones, which previously was just in Wales, yet we've now merged them together, even though they're separate data layers. We've just merged them, so that should automatically update if anything changes, but it's going to have a slightly different layout to the UK data. Yeah, so they've got slightly different, England and Scotland, different ones, but we've merged them so they are consistent and you can access them on the same piece. And I think that's the same for a couple of other data sets, which we will include in our newsletter at the end of this webinar. So those are the main Scotland updates for data. We've also got some new data from the RSPB, including their reserves. So if anyone wants to use those, they're available. And again, some of these features you can copy to your project depending on the size of them. So you can bring that over and use that reserve as your boundary, for example, for a data layer. Also, we've got bird areas, so the important bird areas for some of the schemes, including local nature recovery, which is looking at some of these data sets. So do have a little click and a play. And again, any data layers that you really need to enhance your workflow, please do get in touch. And the final set of data sets, sorry to labor the point, is the historic. We've basically added 3 new historic data layers. We've got the registered battlefields, which are in this yellow, which we as a team had quite a good time looking at and working out which battle was closest to your house. Do a little play. That's from Historic England and Historic Environment Scotland. And we've also got the registered park and gardens as well that should all sit in there. If possible, as we have with all the data layers, if there is a link that we can send you to, like we have done with boreholes or the SSIs, we've got those links that are unique for each of these features, should be automatically available within here. So that should take you to explain a bit more about this registered garden. There we are. Yeah, exactly the same way as World Heritage Sites. So I think we're near Hadrian's Wall, for example. I think that's along here. Yeah, there we are. So do have a little play. Those are the data layers that were popular demand, but again, the more people that ask for certain data sets, the more likely we are to get them in. Okay, just as a final note, and I know this data layer library is growing by the day, and it can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming. Just as a reminder, that the easiest way for you or a client to understand what data layers you intersect, I mean, you can toggle them all on and off, or just as a reminder, we have created the function for you to produce a data layer report for any project you've created. So I can create a report for my SFI demo, for example. Oh, actually, this is going to be trying to merge my, I think that was a mistake. Let me just go back on that one. Let me tell you what, that's a really good point. I'm just going to put my SFI here because that will make it a bit quicker. I now click data layers and create a report. I can create a report on my 49 hectare SFI demo. And again, in here, I can say, just return to me whether my farm intersects any of these data layers. So just as a demo, I'll turn on the habitat and historic and the designations. And that is a transactional cost like printing. So you can demo report, and you can return and bill, this is going to be job 003. Again, that can be transactionally sent to your clients if needed, but this will take about 30 to 40 seconds, but it will basically go and search all our different data layers, compare your project, however big your project is. And remember, you can just draw a box or you can use your SBI number. It will generate a report and it will return how much of your farm or your holding is intersecting that data layer. Also in that report, which it hopefully will show in a minute, is where you don't intersect. So for example, for my SFI farm, 94.77% is in the AOMB, and these are the different habitat networks I've got. So I've got some purple moorgrass, some ancient woodlands, for example. I've got one registered park and garden. However, I've got lots of areas that I'm not intersecting. So for example, if you're doing a EIA for a woodland planting scheme, it might be good just to run this report on that woodland block to see if you intersect any designations or any other thing you might need to consider that you might have missed otherwise. That report is also downloadable as an Excel spreadsheet by hitting the report button. Okay, so that's data improvements. Hopefully that's all clear, and again, but puts any questions in the Q&A.